The Weed Porn Daily podcast is brought to you by the Weed Porn Daily Head Shop. We've got glass, hemp wicks, weed socks, rolling papers, stickers. We've got all kinds of shit. Go check it out, WeedPornDaily.com. Use the coupon code PODCAST, POTCAST, to save 10% on your first or next purchase in the head shop. We're also brought to you by our friends over at Brothers with Glass. They are proud and continuing sponsors of the Weed Porn Daily website, company, experience, and we love them. Check them out, brotherswithglass.com, or you can click the ad over on our website, preferably because it clicks, like we track the tricks. We track the clicks and send the reports over to them. So the more people that click, the more people that they like or something. I don't know. But if you are a advertiser, head over to weedporndaily.com/advertise to hit us up, and we'll send you over a publisher kit PDF explaining all of our advertising packages, from banner advertising to podcast sponsorship to sponsored posting in general. And we explain all the differences in the advertising. We also show how many followers we have and what kind of click rates we get and all that kind of lovely statistical jazz. Check it all out, weedporndaily.com/advertise. It's been a little while since we've done a podcast. I have been busy as fuck doing my work and helping Mrs. Weed Porn Daily with her final semester of college. But I've got a fat bowl here packed of some rosin weed. We've actually been practicing the rosin tech around here. You guys should be seeing plenty of that on the YouTube channel. But I'm about to smoke up some, broken up nugs of the rosin tech extracted nugs, which are essentially these really flat nugs that have been pressed between a hair straightener, and they've had some of their oils extracted, but they've also been slightly decarboxylated, so the THCA has been activated a little bit more, and so we have a little bit higher of a cannabinoid rate, as well as maybe some higher CBNs, so the high experience is slightly altered, making it a bit more heady and a bit more potent. So, cheers. That was a great hit. Whew, I've been struggling with these rosin nugs. They're so flat, they're difficult to burn, but welcome to the Weed Porn Daily podcast. I'm Grouch, and you're listening to the sultry dulcet tones of the owner, editor, designer. You can check all of it out on weedporndaily.com/about and see my complete, I suppose, bio. But I'm here, the Grouch, and we're here for another Weed Porn Daily podcast. What's happening, people? It's been a little while. We've got a lot of news to cover, so I hope you guys are prepped and ready for plenty of information here. Plenty of legalization news coming at you guys, plenty of activism. We have some scandals going on, some of our cannabis celebrities getting raided. We have legalization movements moving in some states. We even have fucking animals getting high before humans. All of that right now. But you can follow along with the news over at the podcast post. You can see that by clicking podcast on the top of the website, or going to the podcast tag. You can also find all the news in the news tag, or you can use the Google search bar, I think, or the search in general. Yeah, something like that. Podcast post is your best bet. That's where I keep a compiled list of all the news that we discuss here. So the first article on our agenda Comes to us from Chronicle Online. Ohio is now going to be petitioning for signatures for legalizing marijuana. Responsible Ohio has cleared a final procedural hurdle and can now begin collecting signatures to place a proposed constitutional amendment on the ballot that would legalize marijuana in Ohio if voters approve the measure. The Ohio Ballot Board, chaired by the Ohio Secretary of State John Husted, approved the measure as one issue during a meeting Friday. Had the board decided it was more than one issue, Responsible Ohio would have had to refine its language. Well, that doesn't matter because they approved it. But Responsible Ohio must gather of at least 305,591 registered voters in order to get the legalization up in front of voters on the ballot. We had a similar one go down in Florida recently. I don't remember the exact number. I think it was actually pretty close to this 305 number. It was probably like 270, 200 and something. But that's a lot of people you guys have to collect signatures for. So please get the word out there. Get all of your friends, if you are in Ohio, signing the petition. Send them the link. Print it out. Get it over. Like when you head over to their house, have them fill it out. You can submit it for them. Like campaign as much as possible. And try to get the word out there. And then once you get them to sign it, also educate them on the matter, because they actually have to go out and vote if it actually does get on the ballot. So knock those birds out with one stone. But moving along, speaking of other states with initiatives and activism and all that, if you want to follow along with any of our legalization petition-esque movement threads post, head over to the activism tag or the legalize-it tag on Tumblr, and you will be able to find all of the posts involving cannabis legalization, whether it be for the advocation or someone trying to limit legislation. And that's also decriminalization, medical marijuana, and recreational. It's every level, every state, all of them in that tag. Check it out. Or you can check your current state's tag. But moving on. Enough advertising the tags. A medical marijuana bill passes the Georgia Senate Committee. I'm not sure. Let's double check. We actually have an article on the WeedPornDaily website that lets you know just what states have medical marijuana, which states have CBD, which states have recreational. We have a comprehensive guide on our website. If you click the Weeducation button up top and find the guide. But let me see. Actually, it should be here on the Tumblr too. Cannabis curing sources, cannabis MMJ map plus laws. But I'm curious because I believe Georgia already has a CBD system, or not system, but it has CBD enacted. So it's interesting they're finally getting to medical marijuana. The Bible Belt is seeing a medical marijuana bill. I believe, not the first, but it's, the only Bible Belt state right now with a bill going on. A Georgian Senate committee passed a medical marijuana bill on Thursday. I'm assuming around like March 20th. But hurdles remain before it can become law. The bill is similar to a House bill that passed weeks ago rather. Addiction specialists took turns telling the Senate committee why legalizing medical marijuana could have consequences. Quote, if we increase the supply of THC in Georgia, it will absolutely, positively find its way into the hands of abusers, says Dr. Paul Early. I saw somebody reblog this, and it was a pretty good statement, solid. They simply said, people can abuse cheeseburgers. And it was essentially hearkening back to that Joe Rogan moment in the Union documentary. But it's like, you can find cheeseburgers anywhere in Georgia, and you can eat so many that you abuse them to the point where your cholesterol goes up, you abuse the salt intake, you rock your kidneys out. Like, some part of your body is going to break down from the abuse of consuming that amount of fast food. Yeah, I can do that, but for some reason, overdosing on THC should be criminal, even though it's scientifically safer than abusing fast food. Or salt, even. Simply salt. I can go into the supermarket and abuse salt, and it's not regulated as hard as quote-unquote THC. And it's funny how they refer to it as we increase the supply of THC. It's like to them it's like meth. Like, if we increase the supply of cocaine, this one particular like substance molecule that we know does this particular effect. Like, they don't understand that cannabis is comprised of several hundreds, well, not hundreds, but there are a lot of different cannabinoids, terpenoids, various different compounds that have various different effects. And just THC in itself, it just goes to show how ignorant it was going down in that courthouse. I feel bad for that Senate committee. Do they go down in courthouses? I guess the Senate floor, whatever platform that might be. But medical marijuana in Georgia. I couldn't load up the guide for some reason. It's lagging. I have like 15 tabs open, though. I don't blame it. But you can check it out on the website. So medical marijuana in Georgia. And now we're moving on to recreational in Nevada. Voters to decide in 2016 on statewide measure regulating marijuana sales. This comes to us via NORML. Nevada voters will decide next November on ballot language that seeks to legalize, or regulate rather, the licensed production. I mean, I guess it technically is legalization. It seeks to regulate the licensed production and retail sale of cannabis to adults. Lawmakers had until late last week to act upon the initiative petition filed by the Marijuana Policy Project, but failed to do so, thus placing the measure on the 2016 electoral ballot. So people in Nevada are going to get out to vote and decide whether they want to become I guess the fourth state to legalize it. I don't know. Does DC count? But they'll be joining the ranks of turning America more green. And it's one of those no-brainers, man. You have Colorado that legalized it, and their tourism is booming currently due to the now access that any adult can have to cannabis. So people coming to Nevada constantly, they get fucked up on alcohol, drugs, hookers, all kinds of illicit shit. Because even hookers, I believe, are legal in Nevada. Maybe that's not necessarily the kosher term for it. Prostitution. I don't know what term the men and women like, or in betweens, but you can get all kinds of fucked up shit in Nevada legally going down. You can gamble, and there's absolutely no reason that someone shouldn't be able to spark up at a casino table. It'll be fascinating to see if they do legalize it. The turnover of casinos. One will allow it, I'm sure, and I'm sure it'll be like a smaller one, not necessarily one of the larger chains, and everyone will slowly have to follow suit as people start to monopolize on the fact that people want a safe place to consume their cannabis. Usually with these legalization laws, you can't consume cannabis publicly. It's kind of treated like liquor, or you can't just be, drinking up on the streets. This isn't Bourbon Street and shit. But, people need it like a vapor lounge. They need like a place to consume it that isn't necessarily their home, because hotels don't allow it if you're a tourist, and not everybody has a friend that they can hook up with at a moment's notice and spark up. So the accessibility for these quote-unquote safe smoking points should be nice, and it'll be interesting to see if it happens. It'll be interesting to see if it happens at all, really. I don't really know the state of Nevada right now. I don't know anything about Nevada. I just assume that it consists of just Las Vegas. But I know it doesn't. I know they have a lot of problems with the Las Vegas suburbs or the area around that and other shit, but I feel like it's a big desert. My ignorance just it's shining, and I feel like I look at Nevada, I see that one picture of the Las Vegas Strip and how it was all desert, and I see like the rest of Las Vegas like that, and I know it's like not like that, but speaking of Nevada, not only will they be allowing recreational marijuana possibly in the upcoming year, a Nevada senator has introduced a bill that would allow pets to use pot. This comes to us via Metro News. Democratic Senator Tick Segerblom is sponsoring a bill that was introduced Tuesday. SB 372 calls on state officials to issue medical marijuana cards for animals if the animal's owner is a Nevada resident and the veterinarian certifies that the animal has an illness that may be alleviated by marijuana. So this is fascinating news. This is something that we don't see ever. You know, we see the advocacy of human use for marijuana, and we're seeing like a backlash for that everywhere. You know, people are struggling just to get medical marijuana or even marijuana decriminalized for humans. You know, so if you were to tell someone that you want to take this illegal drug and not feed it to a human, but feed it to an animal, like you want the animal to have a right to consume this illegal plant. That's crazy talk. That is absolute crazy talk. It's fascinating to see that Nevada is leading the way with this. We've reported in the past about pets being able to use medical marijuana. You know, a lot of animals do have the endocannabinoid system like humans, so they too can impart upon the positive effects of the cannabis plant. So, you know, a dog gets high. You know, you feed a dog a cannabis edible. Preferably, you bake him, you know, a kosher, like, fucking dog biscuit, like, specifically designed for him. But he can just eat up a straight-up edible, or even a plant, without necessarily having the fats to bind it to, the cannabinoids to. And they can eat the straight-up plant and get high. You know, they'll get high, and they'll not only just get high, you know, and get dopey and drool and get lethargic, but their bodies will benefit from the positive effects that these chemicals are imparting upon them. So there was a veterinarian, I believe in Nevada, or if not California, somewhere on the West Coast. It has to be somewhere over there where they're less conservative and fucking liberal enough to give their plants, or their pets rather, their plants. But this vet was advocating for the use of medical marijuana for pets, and he said that he had experience with pets who suffer from cancer and other disorders that, you know, they have tumors or they simply just can't muster an appetite. And cannabis has helped them, you know, as a supplement to other treatments and other things happening, has helped the animal recover from the situation and the symptoms and the sickness. So, you know, there are a lot of people, every time I post an article like this, there are people who come at me. It is amazing just how people come out of the woodwork and they immediately just start, I don't even know, lambasting me, saying that, how could you support, you know, pets using cannabis? You know, what is it? Cannabis is toxic to cats. It's like chocolate to dogs or something, like fucking, I've heard every single fucking like weird ass excuse not to give an animal cannabis. But, you know, you talk to a vet with an open mind, just like you talk to any doctor with an open mind. And not only an open mind, but the study of, you know, the body and cannabis. Because a lot of people a lot of doctors and veterinarians and things like that, they don't care about cannabis. You know, why should they care about cannabis? They got to care about Zoloft. They got to care about, like, relevant medications that are currently trending in the industry, that constantly has new drugs being fluctuated into the market. You know, it's they don't necessarily have time to be dealing with this fucking like herbal medicine shit. You know, a lot of doctors they're very classically trained. This is all very new, progressive shit. So you got to find a very open-minded doctor with those kind of studies and have a discussion with them about cannabis in your pet and see if it's a possibility. And it's also based on personal experience as well. You know, I'm sure the vet is going to do the same thing that you should do yourself, and that's look at your pet and be like, oh, you know, do I have like a tiny little chihuahua with heart problems? Should I be giving that like a really potent sativa? Should I be giving it high doses at all? You know, should I be giving it maybe a CBD-rich medicine so I can ensure that it doesn't necessarily have to face any anxiety or higher blood pressure or anything like that? It kind of mitigates those effects. You know, there are a lot of conditions to consider, just like there are a lot of conditions to consider when you medicate yourself. So it's just another thing to think about. You know, it's not just a matter of just blowing some smoke in your fucking dog's face. It's a matter of actually prescribing your dog the right strain to alleviate his suffering. You know, I talk about it all the time. Kevin Smith has documented it through his podcast, how he would smoke up in his office and essentially hotbox it. And he had a dog that was on death's door. You know, this thing had lost they had to like cut the waist bone or something because it was like a big dog, and big dogs, their waists aren't that strong and the bone like is fragile, and basically the dog couldn't walk after a certain point, and it would just like drag itself around and piss on itself, and it was basically like done, you know, and it was struggling with it, like all kinds of stuff, and it was old, and there were a lot of things going on. That dog was dying. So he would hotbox the room, and the dog would sit inside of the room to experience the smoke. And there were times where he would actually go on vacation or like work trips and things like that and separate himself from the dog, and the dog would actually cry when it didn't have access to its cannabis. You know, and when the second he came back and started sparking up in the room, the dog was excited, the dog was wagging its tail, the dog suddenly was feeling much better. So it's something that's been documented anecdotally, and it's something that science simply just needs to catch up to. So let's move on from that. Nevada. I thought somebody said it so succinctly, and that's why I mentioned it in the intro. You know, like animals in Nevada are going to be able to consume cannabis legally before most people in the U.S. That's pretty crazy. But Denver seeks to stop 60 pot-growing collectives. Plant count up for vote. Denver seems to be really trying to crack down on the homegrown market, and is really trying to get people, you know, if they want to grow on a larger scale, to be a part of their licensing system and get a commercial license and go through that whole rigmarole rather than go under the guise of a collective. Officials say they're trying to shut down about 60 collective growing operations. The collectives are advertised as places for people to grow pot who can't or don't want to grow at home. Many are not permitted by landlords or homeowners associations to grow the 6 plants they're authorized under state law. You know, it's a very common problem. You live in an apartment, you live in just any place where, you know, your landlord doesn't necessarily want you fucking taking a room and installing some fucking lights in it and putting plants inside, you know, or maybe they don't even necessarily agree with you having like a grow tent or something as simple as that. But, you know, people have access to these collectives where they can come together and say, hey, you know, we're going to take this space and I'm going to take my 6 plants, you take your 6 plants, we're going to put them all together and try to have this garden that we can have. You know, it's very common in New York and more urban areas where people live in like a lot of apartments. They'll pick like a rooftop or like a garden park space, and it'll become like a collective garden. So this is a very common thing. You know, it's not surprising that people do it with cannabis, although you know, people seem to be trying to do it on a very large scale. So the city council planned a vote Monday night limiting non-residential marijuana grows to 36 plants if they're not commercial. Private homes are already limited to 12 plants, no matter how many adults live there. So it's interesting, that it's really just them just setting firm rules. There were already limits on the home, with the 12 plants. So it's interesting to see them go up to 36 for these collectives. Considering how large cannabis plants can grow, and that you can get like a pound or more from each plant if you were to grow it effectively enough, 36 is a pretty good number, but 6 people to one collective, why not more? Why not? What's the big fucking deal? If they can manage it, and it's not some company. Well, I guess at that point, if it starts getting big, it essentially starts becoming a company. I don't know. This is something that people can argue. This is like it starts getting into like local government shit, and whether people want it to be more conservative or liberal in itself. But speaking of home grows, new bills introduced in Washington that would allow personal marijuana home grows. Washington currently has I-502 enacted, which means that they have recreational marijuana use for adults 21 and over, and they have state licensed stores and things like that, and state licensed grows. But Washington, unlike Colorado, Oregon, and Alaska, do not allow for home growing. So it really is like the stepchild out, they really wanted to get people to buy from the stores and really corner the quote-unquote black market and get people buying taxed cannabis and not just growing it themselves. But finally we're seeing some legislation leaking through that may enact some change in this. From Kiro TV, recreational marijuana stores are springing up all over Washington state now that pot is legal. But it's illegal to grow your own marijuana unless you have a medical marijuana permit or you're a commercial grower. State Senator Jean Cole Wells says that needs to change, pointing out that growing pot is legal in other states that have legalized weed. Oregon, Alaska, Colorado, and the District of Columbia all allow home grows, said Cole Wells. The bill, as well as a companion bill in the House sponsored by Representative Brian Blake of Aberdeen, would allow adults 21 and older to grow 6 marijuana plants for personal use. Growers could also possess up to 8 ounces of usable marijuana and donate up to 1 ounce to another adult without compensation. But if people can grow their own pot, would it hurt the recreational marijuana industry? Little editorialization there, fucking, I don't know. Interesting that Cole Wells is enacting this legislation. We've talked about Cole Wells in the past, I believe on a podcast with Mrs. WeedPornDaily, because I was trying to figure out the name, and she was like, stop it. Stop making fun of him. And I'm like, I'm just trying to figure out their name, man. It's like a hyphenation. It's like a fucking, it looks like 2 department stores put together. It's a weird name. But, this person apparently is really trying to enact some positive cannabis legislation in Washington, man. Keep an eye out for Cole Wells. So speaking of cannabis cultivation, we're going over to Maine. From the Medical Marijuana Business Daily. 3 main American Indian tribes are considering growing and selling marijuana on their lands, part of a growing number of tribes considering cannabis as a revenue source. The Maliseet, Passamaquoddy, and Micmacs tribes are considering the economic benefits of legalizing marijuana on native lands, while the state's 4th recognized tribe, the Penobscot Nation, said it will not pursue legalization, according to the Portland Press Herald. The U.S. Department of Justice said in December it would allow Native American tribes to legalize marijuana on their lands as long as they followed guidelines to which states are required to adhere. So it's interesting to see that some Native Americans are standing up and interested in doing this. We saw another tribe on the West Coast reach out to some companies in order to start growing for them. So it's nice to see that on the East Coast we're seeing the same kind of reaction. People are seeing the money, they're seeing the green, and the possibility in pot. It's wonderful. Profit that comes out of nowhere. It's money that could be being made, but instead it's going to be funneled to your local drug dealer who's buying himself a nicer car with it instead of it just going to the whole community and the one dispensary owner with a nice car. But speaking of Alaska, speaking of things, I didn't really speak of Alaska, but we're doing it. Newsweek, an Anchorage, Alaska TV anchor named Charlotte Green, someone who we've discussed in the past. She made headlines in September when she resigned on air, announcing she would be spending her time advocating for marijuana legalization in the state and also running her own medical marijuana dispensary. On Friday afternoon, authorities armed with search warrants raided Green's Alaska Cannabis Club, aiming to smoke out reports that illegal marijuana sales were taking place on premises, reports KTVA. Police held a search warrant to the house and cars for marijuana and THC derivatives, such as resins, hashish, and edibles. Additionally, they searched for electronic statements used in or intended for use in or deriving for trafficked controlled substances. The warrant specifically singled out Green and Cannabis Club co-founder Peter Lamananko. The blunt truth, Green said, was that the club didn't sell any recreational or medical marijuana and was basically a medical marijuana dispensary. This is a place for cardholders to come and share their own cannabis, she told a local station. So she's not even a real dispensary. She shouldn't have even said dispensary. She should have said this is like a smoke lounge. This is for people to come and meet other users and other card holders who are possibly cultivators or have caregivers who can do it for them and are willing to share their medicine and impart, other strains upon other people. So it's interesting to see that she's really getting targeted for this. I mean, she really just seems innocent. I mean, that kind of thing seems legal under the law. She's not necessarily running like a public smoke lounge club for anybody. This is for medical marijuana card holders only, which has already been legalized in Alaska before. If anything, she could have a smoke lounge if she wanted to, because recreational sales are legal now. So we're seeing all this scrutiny for her, and we were seeing some scrutiny earlier as well for her marijuana advocacy campaign. They were asking her where her profits or where her campaign money was coming from, whether or not she was taking profits from drug trafficking or something and, using that to fund the campaign. It was ridiculous. It's been ridiculous, the kind of media scrutiny she's been facing. So please send her any support you can, and keep an eye on Alaska, man. It's far out there. I know it's hard to believe that it's a part of the U.S. sometimes, but it's not Canadian. We own it. Marijuana kingpin sentenced to 30 months in prison. No, not the cannabis kid. 7 Day, or from 7 Day rather. 7 Day, I wanted to say Adventist, but it's 7daysvt.com. I don't know what that is. But a Montgomery man, described as a kingpin in an international marijuana trafficking operation, was sentenced to 30 months in prison during a federal court hearing Thursday. Roy Opie McAllister II, 39, was identified as a leader of a ring of at least 11 people who moved up to 3,000 kilograms of marijuana from Quebec to Vermont. Let me look up 3,000 kgs to pounds real quick, because I gotta know. He moved about 6,000 pounds, almost 7,000 pounds. That's a good amount. He'd moved them in the mid-2000s until his arrest in 2013. The operation created a sense of lawlessness in Franklin County, prosecutors said. So this shit sounded straight up out of fucking Kid Cannabis, if you guys have seen that movie I think it came out last year, 2014. But it's basically a movie about this kid who lives in, like, I think North Dakota or one of the bordering states to Canada. And he basically starts getting into marijuana smuggling to just generate profit and make a better life for himself. And it's the just trials and tribulations of a drug trafficker, that kind of shit. International drug trafficker, technically. So this sounds straight up like that. I definitely had to use a Kid Cannabis GIF for this article. But the reason that I'm discussing this article is mainly because of the 30-month sentence. Not 30 years in prison. He only got 30 months for trafficking 7,000 pounds. Federal sentencing guidelines suggested a sentence of around 8 to 10 years, U.S. District Court Judge Christina Rise said during the hearing. But attorneys agreed to a plea deal for significantly less time, just as they did for other defendants in the operation. In part, prosecutors explained the lesser sentences were offered in response to the government's increasing acceptance of marijuana use. After successful marijuana legalization efforts, in Colorado and Washington, the Justice Department in 2013 announced it would not challenge state laws that would allow for recreational or medical marijuana use. Surprising, though, because it's not legal in Vermont, or he wasn't trafficking it for legal uses. He was just straight up doing illegal shit. But it's interesting to see that, they're really loosening sentencing here. We may see a day soon, that people may be charged for cannabis on, these huge trafficking charges and walk away. Or just get slapped on the wrist or do some community service. They're not going to be seeing the life sentences that they're seeing. People are definitely not going to be going to prison for the rest of their lives for possessing pot. And it's nice to see that this cultural shift and acceptance towards cannabis is finally disseminating itself into the justice system, and particularly states like Vermont. It's not necessarily fucking recreationally legal there. So this is a big challenge, or a big thing for that court system. A nice precedent to be set. So coming to us via the Cannabis, some more good news from the federal government. IRS will refund fines to Denver pot shop that pays tax in cash. The Internal Revenue Service has backed away from a policy that penalized an unbanked marijuana business in Denver for paying taxes in cash, but the federal agency will not say if the approach applies industry-wide. In a settlement with Denver-based Allgreens, a medical marijuana dispensary that challenged the agency over its policy, the IRS said it would abate future penalties and will refund about $25,000 in fines that the business was forced to pay despite having paid its federal employment withholding on time. IRS rules require the businesses to pay employee withholding electronically or face a 10% penalty for cash payments. Although the IRS allows for an abeyance in certain circumstances, it disagreed with Allgreen's position that an inability to get banking services forced it to pay in cash. The company filed a petition in the U.S. tax court challenging the penalty, saying it was unfairly applied to a business that was otherwise compliant and paid the taxes in full and on time. So it's nice to see that, the cannabis businesses that have been struggling with the banking situation, and the banks that don't necessarily want to work with the cannabis businesses because they work on a federal level and cannabis is still federally illegal. It's nice to see that these businesses that have struggled to work only in cash, they're carrying large amounts of cash, they're carrying large amounts of very valuable product, they're upping their security risk significantly, and all this bullshit already, and then they turn in their taxes on time to the IRS, and they're getting fined even more because of some more bullshit technicalities on the books. So it's nice to see that someone challenged this in court, and that they're seeing success for this. Maybe not necessarily a decision that reflects upon all the businesses, but definitely it should set a precedent and maybe make some gears turn in the IRS and maybe change some policies, maybe make some rule books, finally fucking change some fucking, like, out-of-date tax codes and shit that need to be severely updated for these new times. So the last article of discussion here, we've been talking for a little while, but this is something that I really have to touch upon. I don't know if you guys heard, but Obama finally came out and had some quote-unquote real talk about pot, saying that it shouldn't be young people's biggest priority. It was an interview with Vice that he did recently. This is coming to us via the Cannabis. You can see the interview on YouTube via Vice, I believe, Vice News. President Barack Obama speaks with Vice News. For young people, Smith said. Oh, wait, this is Smith. For young people, Smith said, I'm sorry, but if you legalize marijuana, it would be the biggest part of your legacy. Obama spoke directly to the issue and to use. It shouldn't be young people's biggest priority, Obama said. Let's put this in perspective. Young people, I understand this is important to you, but you should be thinking about climate change, the economy, jobs, war, and peace. Maybe way at the bottom, you should be thinking about marijuana. Obama then pointed out a couple possible options for moving forward. I'd separate out the issue of decriminalization of marijuana from encouraging its use, Obama said. There is no doubt that our criminal justice system generally is so heavily skewed toward cracking down on nonviolent drug offenders that it has not just had a terrible effect on many communities, particularly communities of color, rendering a lot of folks unemployable because they got felony records, disproportionate prison sentences. It costs huge amounts of money to states, and a lot of states are starting to figure that out. There appears to be hope on the horizon of the complicated issue, Obama said. What I'm encouraged by is you're starting to see not just liberal Democrats, but also some very conservative Republicans recognize this doesn't make sense, including the libertarian wing of the Republican Party. They see the money, and they see how costly it is to incarcerate. So we may actually be able to make some progress on the decriminalization side. At a certain point, if enough states end up decriminalizing, then Congress may reschedule marijuana. But I always say to folks, legalization or decriminalization is not a panacea. Do you feel the same way about meth? Do we feel the same way about coke? How about crack? How about heroin? There is a legitimate, I think, concern about the overall effects this has on society, and particularly vulnerable parts of our society. Substance abuse, generally legal and illegal substances, is a problem. Locking somebody up for 20 years is probably not the best strategy, and that's something we need to rethink as a society as a whole. So that was all Obama. You can hear him all talk all that shit in the Vice thing. But man, it's just like it's that weave of political bullshit that he has to like fucking do on the federal level because he is a international pop star. You know, this guy has the eyes of the fucking world on him, so everything he says is scrutinized by multiple different parties and different facets, and the most liberal to the most conservative parties. So he's playing to both sides and trying to do it in the most, like, complacent way here. So he's like, yeah, you know, we should stop cracking down on drug offenders, but I'm not going to do anything. You know, I'm going to point some fingers at some other people and say that it's good, but I'm not going to do anything. And, you know, and the statement here that really gets me, is legalization or decriminalization a panacea? You know, is the fact that probably 50% of the prison population there unjustly, you know, how does that change our society as a whole? If 50% of the prison population were to suddenly come out, and then we were to say, hey, all of these industries like cannabis, cocaine, heroin, all of these industries, we're now going to start hiring people to, grow poppy, to grow cannabis, to grow coca plants, because, we want to start regulating these industries. And, we understand that the drugs are going to be out there, but we have to regulate these industries. So imagine a society where there are more people out there in the world, and more people out there in the world that don't necessarily have this like ball and chain dragging them down, and they have to drag it into every job interview and then walk out realizing that they're never going to get a position above McDonald's because they can't with their quote unquote permanent record. It's like some fucking high school shit where you smoke up in high school and suddenly you can't go to a good college, like or you get one bad grade once and it suddenly you're a terrible person. Like the person that you are now doesn't define who you are. So what kind of society would we have if we were to have all of these innocent people come out and be able to join the workforce, and if we were to open up these several industries that for some reason are chokeholded by these not even ancient, they're not even that old. They're like 100 years old, these fucking nascent, these fucking infant and ignorant laws that we have in place. What kind of world would we have, Is it a panacea? No. But is it a better place than I can imagine right now? Like, is the world a better place where we're not locking up people just because they smell like a little bit of grass? Yeah, the world is a much better place. The world isn't a fucking utopia, but you know what? I'd rather live in that world, Obama. Like what kind of fucking question is that? Like that was a fucking joke. Like obviously, us struggling for marijuana legalization, it's simply saying like we have the facts and the federal government won't do it. Like we literally have all the information that we need. We know we're right. And, we as a society, we the people that have come together and are smart enough to realize that these substances don't control us and that putting people into fucking addiction shit because they use a substance once isn't the fucking route to go. And all of this shit, like the people who have their eyes opened, we are upset because there isn't you haven't fucking flipped the switch and just said, hey, weed is legal now. Oh yeah, guess what? It's medicinally recognized in so many states, and we know that it doesn't kill anybody. I'm even saying it myself, like as Obama, but for some reason I can't flip the switch and make it legal. That is a problem. For some reason that we have this system that is so overcomplicated and so inundated with people who are ineffectual and holding back progress, that is why we're frustrated. Like pot is simply a symbol of, what we can achieve politically. And it's one of the many things that we're struggling with right now. It's not just marijuana. Kids are pissed about marijuana. They're also pissed about the internet and how people are trying to wrangle it and trying to limit their freedoms on there. Like there are a lot of issues to discuss. People are pissed about how their votes don't matter. People are pissed about a lot of things. And to oversimplify the situation and say that, the young people are overly concerned about cannabis, that's just fucking bullshit, man. Obama. I fucking hate Obama. Obama has made himself the biggest ass in this entire, like, 2-term fucking bullshit. Like, I'm not even going to get started on that, but it was fascinating to see people reblogging this and saying, like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, Obama, this is why I voted for you, and shit like that, and yeah, Obama's going to legalize. Like, no, Obama's not going to legalize. Obama's not going to do anything. Like, just stop falling under this trance. Like, I don't know, is it the way he speaks? Like, what is it? But Obama coming out, talking about marijuana, and talking shit about the youth. Go tell them what you think, you guys. Let them know. And please stop making fucking petitions on the White House website and thinking that they're going to reschedule cannabis with those. That's always a joke. But that's it. that's it for the news. If you'd like to hit up any of the articles that we talked about, all the links will be in the podcast post so you can get a more in-depth look at that. I only hit up like a summary synopsis of the article. There's plenty more writing to delve into. But let's get into the WeedPornDaily side. Actually, no, wait, I have a few things to discuss. Did you guys hear about the Taco Bell Captain Crunch encrusted donut holes that they have? Like, Taco Bell is now testing out this new item that is clearly invented by stoners, for stoners, or people who get the drunk munchies. They're donuts that are dipped in, like, icing, and then, like, they have crunched up, Captain Crunch. It sounds like some shit that I made up when I was high. Like, literally some shit that you get super fucking stoned. You see the box of donut holes. You see the box of Captain Crunch. And, you post it on the R Munchies Reddit the next night as your brilliant creation. So it's fascinating to see them try this out on a corporate level. I talked about it on a WeedPornDaily TV thing. Seth Rogen apparently sold an office to Amy Pascal, and he hotboxed it so much that the stench of weed was ingrained in like the carpet and the wall paint and things like that, so they actually had to repaint and reupholster and recarpet the whole office because she just couldn't get over the smell of weed that had stained the space, apparently. So that was funny. I always think about how it is to smoke in like my office and stuff, and how it's going to be, when I necessarily have to sell the space to somebody else, or if it does leave a lingering smell or anything like that, or when you smoke in like the car, like does the car seat soak up the smell that badly? I don't think so if you Febreze it a little bit. It was just fascinating to see her overreaction. You can see the whole story over on the Cannabist. Also from the Cannabist, I saw an article that was fucking... I didn't know how to feel about it. The Cannabist wrote an article about stoned stand-up comedy festivals going down, and how comedians were experimenting with the new recreational cannabis in Colorado a little too liberally, and going up on stage and floundering about, blubbering, and not remembering their bits and things like that. Like, they were telling some stories like about this one particular this dude that I've seen on the Joe Rogan podcast, like some dude that I know maybe can't hold his shit together on weed, but I know it probably didn't go down as bad as they described it. But he apparently did like a live podcast in Colorado and decided to smoke up before it. And then when it came time to come on stage and do the podcast, he came on and started doing like a really frazzled version of his stand-up, and then immediately like walked off like randomly. Like, just cut off the bit randomly and just walked off, and it was like, I can't do anymore, and that's it. And then passed the mic to the other person, like the co-person of the podcast, and like ditched. And people were like, what? We want to see more of you. We only got 15 minutes, and the headliner says your name on it. So there were a lot of cases like that, and it's something that maybe it's because I watched a lot of Joe Rogan, and I watch his crowd of like Ari Shaffir, Joey fucking Diaz, dog. Joey Diaz ain't going up on stage and fucking having his balls fucking drop like that, nah, dog. Oh, I'm ruining my voice like that. But Joey Diaz would never get too stoned. Joey Diaz handles his shit, or he just wouldn't show up at all. But like a lot of the Joe Rogan crew, a lot of the Death Squad, a lot of the California comedians that I'm familiar with, Doug Benson, all these people, they can get stoned and do comedy. And even the people like Todd Glass, who's been on the Getting Doug with High and maybe doesn't necessarily handle his high as well as others. The show doesn't necessarily bomb that badly. It's just like overzealous critics. So I don't know how to feel about that article. But I'm not necessarily seeing the same stand-up shows, so I don't know. But it made me wanna look into it a little more. Canadians are in fucking court right now. I definitely want to bring attention to that. There's a currently case going on right now that the medical marijuana growers of Canada actually brought the case to the Canadian court. Nobody actually got charged with like some case, and they're trying to appeal it or something. Like, this is medical marijuana growers in Canada going to the courts and saying, you're trying to take away our rights, we're going to fight you over it. And that's currently going on right now. It's very intense. You can see a 3-part Cannabis Culture News Live segment special on it, where they go over the court case and what's been going down, and it involves all the key players that you guys know about if you watch YouTube. Fucking urban growers testifying up there and telling them he came as a professional grower. Like he was there to testify as like a scientific person. Like to tell them how to cultivate cannabis safely and effectively and things like that. And immediately, since he was there, the prosecution or whatever, the opposition, they play a clip from the Urban Grower YouTube page where he smokes like a 10-foot joint of a male cannabis plant, like a really crudely rolled like newspaper joint thing. It was really funny. But you can see the whole progress of the case. They talk about it in multiple different perspectives on Pot TV, on YouTube. You can also see live coverage of the event on their Twitter. You can also follow John Perfello on Twitter, Johnny B. He's been doing live tweeting of the trials while they've been going down. And there have been a couple of other Canadians creating coverage of the event and definitely trying to spread awareness of it. But really, if you're in Canada, this is really a case to watch because it's advocating for, gardens. It's like, why can't I grow cannabis in, like, either inside or outside of my house for any reason? Like, what's the difference between cannabis and a tomato? Or cannabis and arugula or, like, kale or any other plant? Like, I can grow a tomato tree in, like, my house and nobody's gonna give me shit. I could fucking open up a basement and then put a orange tree in the basement and hydroponically grow it, and nobody would bat a fucking eye unless they considered it was cannabis. Like, why is cannabis discriminated against so much? Why is there this witch hunt for weed? And this is what the Allard case is really trying to disseminate, the difference between, I guess, drugs and a plant. I don't know. They're really just trying to fight for the right to grow your own, bro. Yeah, let's get into the WeedPornDaily news, shall we? It's been a fucking busy week, as you can tell. We haven't, busy weeks. We haven't recorded a podcast for a while. I've been really trying to gear up the website with new content and things like that, and we really faced a really big hard drive failure recently, where one of my external hard drives that was like a terabyte big, and I had recently just put all of my valuable information on. I was like, yeah, let me clear my main hard drive on my computer so that I have, a lot of free space so that the OS can run efficiently and things like that. So I cleared off as much as possible to the external hard drive, and then within like a week or two, it started like clunking out, and files just started corrupting on it, and I just lost like folders and folders of just content for the website. Like the recent Sarah Silverman vector that I did, that I wanted to sell as a print, gone. Never gotten to printed. Like, you guys will only be able to see like the image that I posted. The source file is gone. That shit's never gonna be recreated. I lost the fucking WeedPornDaily logo. That was crazy. I had to actually go and recreate the logo recently. That took some time. There were just a lot of vital files lost. A lot of recent projects. All the WeedPornDaily TV logos that I developed, like Game Night, Dank, all the different segments that I developed, they were all lost. I had to recreate those recently. So a lot of time was spent just playing catch up. I had to buy a new hard drive. That was like that was money that I didn't have. Another like $80 hundo. But I bought the hard drive. I bought some DVDs, and I've been shifting everything to the new external hard drive while also simultaneously backing everything up to DVDs. I had backups on the cloud. We had like Dropbox, we had Google Drive, we had Amazon Cloud. I had every single different cloud service you can imagine, and I had backups on all of them, and I still wasn't able to conserve all the data. There's just a lot of data, and you only have like 2 gigs here, 2 gigs there on a cloud, and I have like a terabyte of data to disperse. It's difficult. So I lost a lot of stuff. It was so depressing for a period of time because I just didn't want to work. I'd lost hundreds and hundreds of hours of work, and I was like, well, I just have to literally put in some more hours to regain that, and then keep putting in more hours to improve my current situation. It was just depressing upon depressing, so I didn't feel like doing any podcasts. I didn't feel like doing anything, anything just where, my mind had to be in a good place. So I got myself back in a good place. I got myself stable again. I'm still backing shit up. I'm still in that process. It's just a lot of information to do, and a lot of sorting and things like that, and just all that in between, like actually working. Like I've had to ship shop orders out today. I had to ship a bong out. I had to do eBay orders. Lots of stuff. I've been doing art, but yeah, the hard drive failure, that fucking sucked. We lost a lot of shit. But some good news, I was able to restock a local head shop with our weed socks. They hit me up, and they had sold out of a bunch of different colors, and I had to go down and deliver some socks. It fucking sucked, bro. I, put all the socks in a backpack. I threw the backpack on my back, and I jumped on my skateboard, and I head out, and it was torturous. Like, number one, my skateboard, it broke in the car accident, so I'm using my old board, which is like an eaten down, like it doesn't have basically any more pop, because I grinded it down from doing so many shitty manuals. So that's eaten up and gone, and the board itself is like warped and flattened from like being rained on and just being used for a long time. So I have that on my old trucks, and I have some wheels that I found like on the side of the road. So imagine that setup, and then I'm wearing a backpack full of stuff weighing me down, and I had to skate like a couple miles to the local head shop, and it was crazy. Like, I hadn't done cardio basically since the car accident. Like, I've done cardio here, there, we went to Disney at some point, but I just haven't had a consistent cardio experience, so that was just death. Like, I had to take constant breaks. I was just stopping at like bus stops and just sitting down and breathing and just trying to catch my breath and not have a heart attack, and then continuing. And by the time I got to the shop, I was just dripping in sweat, delivered the socks, got my $50 fucking check, and head out and skated home. It was intense. It was a mission. And it sucks, because that's just the state that I'm in. I can't personally drive right now, and I literally have a car. I have a car, but I can't drive it. It's so fucking ridiculous because of the legal wrap-up that I'm currently in with the local government. I just can't drive. So I'm relegated to skating everywhere. And I try to tell myself that, I just need to tough it up and, skate. Like people fucking, they walk like 5 miles to work in the snow or something. Like, I try to make up these crazy scenarios that people might go through, and rough it out in order to get like a little bit. Like they'll walk to the bus stop and take a 2-hour bus ride to go to work, and then come home and then like sleep for 4 hours, and this crazy life. And I'm like, if they can live like that, I should be able just to skate to where I need to go. And then I actually do it, and I'm like, man, this is completely unfeasible. Like, I have to skate 5 miles this way. Like, my whole thought process that day was that I was going to skate to the head shop, and then I was going to skate to Publix because I had to do some shopping, and I had to get my groceries. I was going to empty out my backpack, at the head shop, skate to Publix, fill it up with groceries, and then head home. And by the time I got to the head shop, I was like, I'm so exhausted, there's no fucking way I could skate to Publix. I could barely walk home right now, let alone skate home. I could not imagine going to Publix, which is skating like another couple miles, and then putting more weight on me, and then skating home. Like that, it just sounded like suicide. So I just don't know what to do with my life, man. It's crazy. I'm trapped in this cave, and there's nothing I can do. It is so crazy. But I've been in the cave, and I've been working on art, really trying to monetize anything that I can, to try to pay off these fucking fines and shit, so I can drive and I can get my life back together and fucking act like I just want to be able to drive to local head shops and deliver my product without having to kill myself skating. I'm literally driving to the most local head shop. If I had to drive to the next nearest head shop, it would probably be another like 5 to 10 miles, and I wouldn't be able to do it skating. I literally, like, if I had to do it skating, it would be like a day trip, and it would take the whole day. I just want to drive, bro. It would take like 10 or 20 minutes, boom, done. And but yeah, I'm working on art to get that privilege back, I suppose. Privilege, fuck those people. But working on a Stone Disney series. Mrs. WeedPornDaily picked me up some watercolor paper, some canvases, just a bunch of art supplies to get me started. And I've been inking, drawing, painting, plenty of Stone Disney characters. I did a series of Andean Goofies. I did a couple of pieces of some dabbed out Donalds. I just finished one today of like all the Disney cast, Goofy, Minnie, Mickey, Donald, Daisy, and even Pluto, all in one image. Just working it, making pieces. So if you guys are interested in actually purchasing like a real art piece, because for some reason people weren't that interested in prints. I don't know what the fucking like stigma is for prints, like why people don't dig prints. Why can't I like paint on the computer, print it out, and it's not as valued as like painting in real life? Like I can spend the same amount of time painting on the computer as it takes to paint in real life, but for some reason it becomes devalued because I have to print it out. But whatever, bro. I have canvases now. I have like real paper made with real ink by my hand. I've been recording the drawing for WeedPornDaily TV. You guys can check that out now on YouTube. There are some time-lapse drawing videos of me basically inking some canvases of Donald, Goofy, and some other characters and stuff. I posted one, and people really responded really well to it, so I just continued to just keep recording myself while I was cranking out these pieces. Just feels like I'm back in high school, working on art again. I used to go to an art high school, art magnet, and I was a graphic design major. I had to take art every year. Like, I had to take painting, I had to take drawing, I had to take, like, 3D, I had to take, like, art stuff, as well as, like, my graphic design courses. Like, I had multiple art classes going simultaneously, so I was in the art. I was, like, in the middle of the art district. Like, I was in the art scene. So doing all this really just reconnects me with that period of my life and just that community and stuff and that culture. It's nice. I like being an artist. It's enjoyable to just kick back and create something. But the art's been being cranked out. Please check it out. You can check it out on YouTube, I guess, or please buy it. I'm going to have it up in the shop soon. WeedPornDaily.com/shop. Or I guess WeedPornDaily.com/collection/prints if you're looking for it. But, yeah, I've been doing some live streams. I've been trying to, like, not to kill myself. Like, after the car accident, like not literally not kill myself, but, like, after the car accident, I realized that, life is short. You only have so much life to live. And I realized that I've been working so much that I haven't necessarily been enjoying my life as much as I could. I completely abandoned video games. I hadn't played video games in a long time. And there was actually a period of time where I felt guilty for playing video games. I felt like I just couldn't sit down and play a video game because I wasn't making money. And I needed money so badly that I couldn't justify sacrificing any time, even like free time, quote unquote, after work to do video games. There was no free time. It was all work time or I'm sleeping. So now I'm trying to wind down from that and realize that I do need time to unwind in order to be productive. There has to be times for my body to relax in order for me to get stressed out again and wound up. It's the same thing with working out. You just can't work out. You got to work out, let your muscles rest, recover, get bigger, recuperate, and then you blast them again. It's so I've been trying to take it easy and play more video games. So in order to do that and still kind of appease my anxiety about not being productive, I've started to live stream my gaming sessions. So when I get too exhausted from work or I just feel like I just need to play, I just can't crank out something, I'm feeling blocked, any particular reason I want to just get away, I crack open the live stream software, and we now stream on Twitch, where you can see me play SNES, Game Boy Advance, Genesis, NES, PlayStation 1, and other types of games. I'm maybe even going to get into Hearthstone soon. But you can just see me just play games, and I open up the chat, and I chat with the people in the chat room, and it's visible on the stream. And you can see me, it's also like a live stream of me smoking, talking shit, and you can also see the game. So I'm really just trying to get into that whole live stream thing. I know a lot of people are doing it, have been doing it for a while. Twitch is already a big established thing, so I'm just jumping on the bandwagon. But it's something that I've wanted to do for a long time now. And, it's game night. That's what it is. It's game night. That's a new feature on WeedPornDaily TV. That's a new feature, period. It's stoners getting together and just playing games and talking shit. It's the Game Grumps with ganja. That's what I want it to be. So it's just going to be me kicking back, smoking, playing some games, unwinding, maybe recording my sessions when I play games with friends, when I invite them over, or playing with Miss WeedPornDaily whenever she's up for some co-op action. But yeah, that's a new segment that we're working on. So if you guys are into live streams, into gaming, into watching people play games, check us out on Twitch. It's twitch.com/WPD_game night. One word, game night. You can also just see them on YouTube. I'm going to be taking all the streams from Twitch, saving them, and then kind of clipping them, because it's a little excessive at some points, and then putting them on YouTube. So you'll be able to see that on YouTube as well. The strain database got updated. Make sure to check that out, weedporndaily.com/strain. You can see all of the strains there. I've been working on that hard. I made it mobile friendly, so you guys can check it out on your iPhone, your Android, whatever you want, whatever small format screen you're looking at it on. You could even take your web browser and make it really small, as small as possible, and look at the site like that, and it'll look like a mobile site. But check it out, the strain database. I've been adding a lot of strains to it. I added a lot of cannabinoid content to it. I added all the different strain types, so you can see, there are indica, sativas. It isn't all just hybrids now. Some of them have cannabinoid contents. Like I said, you can see the THC content of some of these strains. They go up to 25%, and some go down low as 10% THC. So you can see which strains average out to be the most potent, and all of that. Cool stuff. I've been dragging out this podcast a bit. But I appreciate you guys sticking around. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate you guys supporting through the head shop. It amazes me every day that I consistently am able to, get orders and shit. People order hemp wicks, people order weed socks, stickers. I've been getting orders for those Roxanne stickers, like 4, 6 stickers at a time. It's fucking crazy. I really appreciate that. It makes me feel really great as an artist, knowing that that piece was that successful and that people are really just that enamored, that excited, that ecstatic with the design that they want to buy that many and spread them out and stuff. It's awesome. And it's awesome to see that you guys support us, whether it be liking stuff, reblogging stuff, sending us thank you messages and lovely asks in the ask box. I appreciate you guys sending us submissions on Stoner Sunday and doing all that shit. I just really appreciate it. So thank you guys for joining us. Thank you guys for sticking around the podcast. Fucking hours of me jabbering on and shit. And, make sure to check out our Disney footage on YouTube. I have a 5-part mini-series going up this week. Check it out. WeedPornDaily, YouTube. Stay ready with Super Stoners. I gotta take this. 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 I gotta take this.